Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today I spent the day wandering around my new hometown, looking for nice houses I could use as reference for a new animation background I wanted to create. I found this area here in Innsbruck with a lot of old traditional buildings. I brought my camera with me and took some images as I went on. After a lot of walking around, I finally found this house, which I think had a really interesting architecture. There's a lot going on there, and the tower at the front really pops out and creates a nice composition. Back in the studio, I started modeling the house in Cinema 4D, having my reference photo conveniently at hand on a separate monitor. I try to capture as much of the general shapes of the house as possible in my modeling. The smaller details can later be painted in using Photoshop. I'm trying to find shortcuts to speed up my modeling process, so for example, once I've made one window here, I duplicate it and alter the size of it for the other types of window, and it saves me from having to remodel it every time from scratch. I also keep the file pretty messy, as you can see on the top right. Naming the layers at this point kinda doesn't make any sense and would just waste my time, as this is a static object in the end, made out of hundreds of layers. For other projects, I would definitely recommend keeping a tidy project structure, but since this is just an underpainting for the next step, which will be me painting on top of it in Photoshop, I wanted to get it rendered as soon as possible. Here's the output from Cinema 4D that I brought into Photoshop. I dropped on some of my painted textures on the model before I rendered it. The renderer I used is Arnold, and for the lighting I used a skylight that illuminates the whole scene, and then a distant light to simulate the sunlight. Then I started to paint in the trees in the background. I made a little collection of greens that I can quickly color pick from. I used a few different tones for highlight, midtones and shadows, just to keep it varied. I'm using my own made tree and vegetation brushes for this. You can check out one of my older videos where I show you how you can make those. And for all the other painting, I used either a round basic brush or sort of a rounded triangular brush, which I made. Still very basic. Here I started to deviate a bit from the reference and take my own decisions on where things go. My main goal with the reference image was to get a really interesting building into the painting. And having taken the image myself, I don't really have to worry about any copyright or anything like that. I guess I could give credit to the architect, but if you're still knocking about and watching this, then thank you, but I doubt it. I guess this is pretty old, this house. I duplicated the tree layer and filled it with black, Then I dropped the opacity down on that layer and used it as a shadow for the building. I did the same for the shadow on the street. It creates this sort of dappled light effect, which I'm a big fan of. This piece is something I intend to use in an animated film, which I'm very early in development on, but I wanted a van to drive past in the foreground, so I went back to Cinema 4D again and started modeling it. It's the first time I'm modeling a full car, and it's actually quite tricky to do that. However, it was a great learning process and I found it quite enjoyable, but yeah, you know, loads of problem solving to piece it all together. I try to break down each element of the car into a simpler shape and then fit them all together. The symmetry tool in Cinema 4D was very useful. I only have to make one side of the car and it creates a mirrored version on the other side. To apply some color to it, I added some textures with the color set in the luminance channel, and I rendered it with Sketch and Tune, so I get the black outlines. Here you can see a 360 render of it. I also rendered some basic shading in a separate pass that I could apply on top. I finally added the car to the house scene and animated it driving in. I also did some compositing in After Effects just to fit everything together. I added little leaves falling and light shining and stuff like that. That was it for this episode. Hope you liked it. If so, hit that thumbs up button below and let me know in the comments if you learned anything from this video or if you have any questions about what you just saw. Feel free to subscribe, or you should subscribe to the channel, and I will see you soon. Bye.